In this section, we'll cover layout and visual optimization and explore the impacts of marks, maps, tooltips, pages, and properties on our workbook in terms of speed and performance. Goals for this section include understanding the impact of sheet and mark counts on performance, exploring geospatial mapping and layering techniques, simplifying tooltips and using Viz in tooltips efficiently, understanding the impact of using pages and animations, configuring workbook properties and objects, and exploring common UX tips for dashboard layout and navigation. Up next, we'll be diving into mark and sheet counts and their impact on performance within the workbook. The number of unique marks and sheets on a dashboard directly impact Tableau's ability to process and render the data efficiently. Generally speaking, less is more in terms of performance. So having less marks on sheets and less sheets on the dashboard will help performance overall. First, let's look at sheet count. You should limit the number of sheets by creating separate dashboard tabs, combining sheets, or leveraging sheet hiding via actions or parameters. There's no hard rule for a specific number of sheets on a dashboard, but try to keep it in the 4 to 6 sheet range, unless the data presented doesn't have a lot of marks. Note that sheets with a blue check are present on the dashboard. Those without a blue check are included in the workbook but aren't visible. Next, let's look at mark count. Marks can be anything rendered in a sheet, including points, plots, text, or symbols. Mark counts can be found in the bottom left-hand corner of your workbook when selected on a sheet. One of the most resource-intensive visualizations is a crosstab, where each piece of text is considered a mark. To help performance when dealing with marks, try to lower your mark counts through filtering, aggregating, and removing dimensions from your sheets. It may seem counterintuitive to cut your dashboard's sheets and marks down. The main point of Tableau is to display your data visually, but there is always a smart and intuitive way to display data, and you should try avoiding putting visuals and marks on a dashboard or sheet just to show it. Make sure that you are rationalizing your visualizations and dashboards as a whole, so you provide enough information without overburdening users. Now that we've talked high level about marks and sheets counts, let's go into our own workbook and modify our dashboard. Alright, we're back in Tableau Desktop. First thing we're going to do is rename our workbook. We've got our calculation optimization workbook open, but since we're in a new section, we'll go to File, Save As, and we'll change this to Layout and Visual Optimization. So it'll be Tableau Desktop Performance, Layout, and Visual Optimization. We'll click Save, and we'll have a new workbook for this section of the course. Note that this section is where the bulk of our work is going to be, for the Layout and Visualization section of the course. Our dashboard is loaded up with sheets and many detailed marks in our visualizations. Let's start by taking a look at the sheets first, and then we'll dive into the mark count on each sheet. Let's go over to our dashboard and let it render. Okay, so we can see that we have a lot of sheets on this page. Let's start by removing all of the KPI sheets. First, let's remove the sheets from the dashboard itself, and then let's go ahead and delete the sheets to help lighten up the workbook as a whole. We're not going to want our high-level KPI values in this dashboard because it's not going to support the analytics that we're going to drive. The easiest way to remove all of these sheets is to actually find the container that they're contained in and delete the container. So let's go ahead and go to our Layout tab, and we'll look for the horizontal container that these are in. As you can see, we have a lot of different sheets here. We can just select the container, hit the X in the corner, and it'll say removing the selected container will also remove the 8 items within it. Do you want to remove this? Yes, we're going to delete containers, and that will take the sheets off of the dashboard. So right away, we've cut 8 sheets out of the dashboard, and we'll no longer be rendering those. While we're working through sheet consolidation, let's take a look at placement at the same time. We want to create a drill path for our users that starts at a high level and drills down one at a time. A path which would work well for this theme is going from higher level dimensions to lower level dimensions. So let's say that we want to start with borrow in the top left-hand corner, move on to zip code, move down to month level views, and then look at our street level. Finally, it would be good if we have a final drill down detail level that's not shown until we select something. I think that should give a good drill path for our end users, so let's work towards that. Alright, first up, let's move vehicle types involved to the top left-hand corner. Let's go back to our dashboard tab. We can see that this is named Table Vehicle Types. Let's go to that sheet and we're going to rename this to be Injuries by Borough. And we'll also go back to our dashboard and we'll rename the title for now to Injuries by Borough. Don't worry, we'll work on the formatting later. For now, we're just going to do this so we can stay organized. That's looking better. Let's go back into our sheet and we're going to change the layout of our visualization. Let's go over to Show Me and let's change this over to a tree map. That'll be a bit easier to interpret. So we'll select Tree Map, close out of Show Me, and the two fields that we're going to want to keep are going to be Borough and Number of Persons Injured. So it looks like we have Number of Persons Injured. We have a couple vehicle type factors in here. We really want to just concentrate on Borough. So let's go ahead and grab Borough. We'll drag that over Vehicle Type Code 1, and then we'll take Contributing Factor Vehicle 2 straight off of the level of detail. Alright, that's looking a little bit better. Let's go ahead and change some of the formatting while we're in here, just so that it goes with our theme. So we'll click on Color, choose Edit Colors. We're going to go down and change this to Custom Diverging. On the left, we're going to make this a purple color. We've got the hex code for this. It's just going to be 440B70. We'll go ahead and click OK. Then we'll click on the right side. We have the hex code for this as well. It's going to be EECB3C. Hit OK, hit Apply, and that's looking a bit better. One more thing, we're going to want to include the number of persons injured in the label, so we'll just hit Control or Command on our keyboard, click and drag, and drop on label while we're still holding Control, and we'll have that raw number brought in. Finally, we'll go up and we'll fit our sheet to the entire view, and that'll stretch it out to fit a bit better. What we've done here will help with the placement of the sheets and consumption, but has also greatly reduced the number of marks on the sheet from thousands to only 6. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner, we're down to 6 marks. Alright, let's go back to our dashboard. Now our fit entire didn't translate to this sheet, so on the dashboard, we can just go up to standard and hit entire view. And then we are going to take a closer look at our map. Now this sheet is our map drill down, but it's going to bring us some big problems in terms of marks. Even with the reductions we've done, this sheet has around 250,000 marks if you look at the bottom left-hand corner. That is a ton of marks for Tableau to render. Based on our drill path, we really only need zip level detail for this sheet. So let's go ahead and remove the dimensions that are unnecessary, remove our measures, and we're just going to keep zip code on this sheet primarily so that we can use it as a drill down while keeping our single metric of number of persons injured. So let's go to our sheet. Now, one of the things contributing to this particular sheet being very dense is this unique key that's brought in, also location. So let's go ahead and start by just dragging in zip code. We're going to drag it right over unique key to replace it. That will be good. Now let's go ahead and just remove everything else besides zip code for now. We'll just select our first field, we'll hold shift, we'll click, and then we're just going to drag everything off so that we lose all of that detail. Alright, next we're going to change our marks to be a filled map so that we can fill in our zip codes. It's looking a bit better. Then we're going to bring our number of persons injured onto our color. So we'll drag number of persons injured onto color. We'll double click into our color. And again, we're going to change this to custom diverging. We'll click the left side. This is going to be our purple 440B70. And the right side is going to be our gold, which should be EECB3C. Click OK there. Click OK again. Now we've got an outlier here that's sucking up a lot of our color palette, and it's not really relevant. It's this null zip code. We're just going to right click on that and choose exclude. And that should bring the full color spectrum back in and make our colors look a bit better. Let's go ahead and refresh this sheet so we get our filters back. That's looking good. Let's go ahead and change our tab name so this makes a bit more sense to Injuries by Zip Code. It's looking good. Then we'll go ahead and hide our unknown indicator. That's just an extra zip code that we don't need. Let's go back to our dashboard, take a quick look at how it's looking. All right, that's looking a bit better now. Let's go ahead and rename our title. And this is just going to be injuries by zip code. Here we go. Hit OK there. Then we'll go to our bottom left visualization. We want to make this sheet highlight the months that are most dangerous over time after users have drilled down by zip code level. By reworking this sheet, we're going to eliminate a bunch of the marks that are shown, among other things. Let's go ahead and go into our sheet just to see what else we have on here. Yep, looks like we also have a pages function on here. These are not performant at all, so we're going to want to remove this as well. We're really just looking for a strong trend by month so that we can use it as a drill path. Let's go ahead and drag quarter date off of there. We're going to rename our tab. This is going to be called Injuries by Month. Then we'll take our month of date from the marks card. We're going to drag it over to our rows shelf. We'll drop that in there. We'll take the number injured off of rows right there. Then we'll grab number of persons injured. We'll drag it over this measure that's on our columns. Then we'll go ahead and remove our other dates from our marks card. We'll select those, drag them off of the view. Then we're going to use Show Me to force a horizontal bar. So we'll just click bar chart right here, close Show Me. Then we'll drag number of persons injured over to color. Again, we're going to double click on our color palette. Go ahead and change these to our purple and gold. Click on the left, choose purple 440B70. Then we'll click on our right, choose gold, EECB3C. And to save these, you can just click Add to Custom Colors once you type them in. But if you've already got them here, it's real handy to click those. Let's click OK again. All right, we've got our color palette back in. Let's go ahead and add a label. So we'll just click Label and we'll say Show Mark Labels. We'll right-click on our months, choose Format, and we're going to change our general alignment of our header to just be left. That's a bit cleaner. Then we'll go ahead and unbold this, and we'll right-click on our corner label, and we're just going to hide the field labels for rows because we know those are months. It's a little repetitive to have that. We're going to copy our injuries by month name of our tab, and we'll go change our title. Let's double-click in there, paste. So we're just going to call this Injuries by Month. Click OK there. That's looking good. We've got a nice little flow going on now. And then on the bottom right, let's select that. Looks like we've got 107,000 marks here. That's quite a bit. Let's go into this sheet. Now, we've got some really detailed pieces here with on-street name and zip code and year of date, and then we've got a ton of measures. But really what we're looking for is a street level view. So we want to really cut down the number of marks on here. Let's go ahead and remove all the dimensions on rows except for on-street name. So we'll just click, hold shift, and click over on the other pills. We'll drag them off, and then we've just got on-street name. You can see how we're already down to 31,000 marks, so that's a bit better. And then we're going to look at our measure values. We just want number of persons injured. So we'll just go ahead and grab number of persons injured from the left-hand side, drag that into measure values. Then we'll select all of the other pills, drag those off. Now we're going to use Show Me to make this into a bar. We'll go ahead and go to our axis and we'll sort descending. So we have the largest on the top. We'll right click, format our header. This is going to be left aligned and we'll unbold. We'll also hide our field labels by right clicking and saying Hide Field Labels. Close out of that. We're going to add our labels, so we'll click Show Mark Labels. Let's go ahead and make this a left-aligned bar label. So we'll click into alignment. We'll choose left, and it'll be inside of our bars. Let's drag our size up a bit, just so that our bars take up a bit more space. That looks good. Then we'll drag number of persons injured over to color. Want that to be consistent between the visualizations. We'll double-click in, go down to Custom Diverging. Left-hand side is going to be our purple, 440B70. Right-hand side will be our gold, EECB3C. Click OK through that. We'll double-click on our sheet. We're going to call this Injuries by Street. And we're going to copy that because we want it to be our main title too. So we'll go back to our dashboard, double-click where it says Full Detail, paste in Injuries by Street, Click OK, and that's looking better. Now you can see we've drastically reduced the number of marks rendering on all of our sheets, so that should help quite a bit, and we've taken quite a few sheets off of our dashboard. Let's go back to our Start Here tab, and we'll go ahead and save our workbook. Up next, we'll be diving into the performance implications related to mapping. Mapping is one of Tableau's major strengths, but geospatial features need to be applied carefully to minimize the impact on performance. There are three primary areas to consider when dealing with maps and performance. The first is map types. The two main types of maps available in Tableau are symbol and filled maps. Since filled maps produce more mark ink because they fill an entire area, they will run slightly slower than symbol maps, which just produce circles in the center of the region shown. Next are custom territories. Custom territories allow users to create custom geospatial groups to facilitate new territories within the data. It's important to note that users should try to create their own groups with the highest grain geospatial data possible. So if you only need state-level data group, don't create a custom territory using zip-level data. The reason for this is that Tableau first processes the lower grain data layer and then renders your custom territory over it. And finally, we have layers. Tableau has the ability to layer visualizations. Not just in mapping, though maps do use quite a bit of layering of data. Note that layering produces a similar performance threshold to dual accessing, so swapping between the two will be negligible. Instead, try to limit the number of layers to help with overall performance. In our workbook so far, we've actually moved to a filled map instead of a symbol map. Now this may seem counterintuitive, but the difference is that we eliminated thousands of marks that we had when we used a symbol map representing each record in our dataset by moving the level of detail up to zip level. In this way, we've improved performance using removal of marks, which far outweighs the benefit of using a symbol map instead. With only a few marks on the sheet, the performance difference between the two shouldn't be of concern and wouldn't be noticeable to the end users. Up next, we'll be talking through tooltip optimization. Tooltips can provide additional detail or context within a dashboard, but should include a limited number of measures or a single basic visual, which should also be applied with filter actions. There are two primary optimization points related to tooltips. The first is to keep it simple. Less is more in the case of most performance optimization, and the same methodology applies to tooltips. Try and simplify your tooltips by limiting the number of complex measures and using basic viz-in tooltips to help users. In addition, you should also leverage filter actions which can specifically help performance with viz-in tooltips. By default, your viz-in tooltips will filter based on the dimensions contained inside the sheet that you are selecting, but that includes all dimensions. To further refine the viz-in tooltip filtering, apply a filter action as well on the specific dimension that you would like to push. Now that we've talked high level about tooltips, let's go into our own workbook and modify it a bit. Okay, so we're back in Tableau Desktop Performance Layout and Visual Optimization Workbook. Now we've already done some tooltip cleanup inadvertently in our workbook by removing a viz-in tooltip that used to live in our borrow sheet. This viz-in tooltip was complicated with two dimensions creating a grid for each point, which is hard to render for each hover over. The tooltips now are fairly minimalistic, but we'll want to add a simple visual to the map so we can get some insight into contributing factors by zip. Let's go ahead and find our viz-in tooltip sheet and open it up. This is our old viz-in tooltip that we're going to modify. Let's go ahead and start just by clearing the sheet out. We can do that with our toolbar just by clicking Clear Sheet. And then we're going to go ahead and select Contributing Factor Vehicle 2 and Number of Persons Injured. We can do that with Control or Command buttons. Then we'll go to Show Me. We'll make a bar chart. Close Show Me. We're going to Sort Descending. We'll apply Number of Persons Injured to Color as we have before. We'll double click into our color. Go down in our palette to Custom Diverging. The left-hand side is going to be our purple, 440B70. The right side is going to be our gold, EEC B3C. Click OK, click OK again. Now we've got our color spectrum in there. We'll go ahead and go to Label. We'll say Show Mark Labels, because this will be in a tooltip. We want to show the number in there. We'll go ahead and remove our access just so we have a little bit more space. We'll hide our corner field labels up here just by right-clicking and choosing Hide Field Labels for rows. And then we'll go ahead and format our axis a little bit. Put that on the left-hand side, and we're going to pull our bold off of that. We might want to drag this out a little bit to the right as well, because it looks like we've got some long names that get a bit cut off. Now let's go over to our Map tab, which if we hover over is now named Injuries by Zip Code. We'll go right in there, and we're going to go into our tooltip. We'll just enter down twice. We'll choose Insert, Sheets, and we'll say Viz in Tooltip. Now let's take a quick preview of what this will look like. All right, it's a bit crowded. Let's go ahead and bump our max width up a little bit. So we'll go from 300 to 600, do a quick preview. All right, that's looking a bit better. So let's just say 800, and we'll make our max height maybe 600. We'll just make it a little bit bigger. Click OK. And now when we hover over, we're getting a nice view of our top contributing factors. Now, if we wanted to make this a little bit easier to read, we could always go over to our Viz in Tooltip, and we could just take our number of persons injured, drag it over to our filter shelf, apply a filter on the sum, and we could say, hey, only show the records that are at least one injury. We'll click OK there, and that will cut out a bunch of those zeros that we were seeing. So now if we go back to our dashboard, hover over our map, and that's looking pretty good. Again, we'll want to keep our tooltips minimalistic. We don't want to add any extra rendering or processing time just for our tooltips. The Viz in Tooltip that you should aim for should be simple, easy to read, and won't impact performance or user experience negatively. It always wants to be something that's complementary and doesn't take away from your view. Up next, we'll be discussing the Pages functionality and performance implications. Let's go over to Start Here, click Save, and we'll be good to move on to the next lesson. Pages can be useful for enabling presentation-style delivery, but should be configured carefully. First, you'll want to choose your page dimensions carefully. Dimensions placed in the Pages shelf will query the data for all values at once, not individually as each page loads. So avoid dimensions containing a large number of unique values. Second, you'll want to run pages using the fastest playback speed. When leveraging pages, the fastest playback speed will create the illusion that your visualization is moving at a quicker pace and that performance is increased. Now, in reality, you're really just cycling through your dimensions more quickly than you would on a slower form, but it will make it look like your dashboard's more performant if the visualization is moving faster. A similar use case could be made for animations as well. A faster animation will lead to better performance perception. A quick pro tip around testing your pages: to test if a dimension would be right to use on a pages shelf, you can try dropping the dimension on the level of detail of the view and see how long it takes to render. Since the pages shelf doesn't filter your data down, rather it executes a query on all dimensions possible from that one field, placing a field on the level of detail will accomplish the same thing. So if it takes a long time when you put it on level of detail, it will take a long time when you put it on pages and you're initially rendering your dashboard. A note regarding our own dashboard: our injuries by month sheet had pages enabled originally, which was a decent performance drag. Instead of using pages for the year, we've got a set action taking care of that functionality. This will be more performant and intuitive than leveraging pages, and we've already taken care of that in our workbook. In the next lesson, we'll dive into dashboard properties. Dashboard properties, like device-specific views and fixed sizing, can impact Tableau's ability to cache and render dashboards effectively. First, let's look at limiting device-specific views. It can be tempting to make device designer profiles for your desktop, mobile, and tablet. But this will make Tableau think about the size of your screen and will hurt in terms of caching. Once you make Tableau think of what your device is, you're already slowing down the process of rendering your dashboard. Our recommendation is to leverage fixed sizing. On Tableau Server and to a lesser extent Tableau Desktop, Tableau will try and determine your size of your screen. Because Tableau will try and figure out what size your screen is before it renders the dashboard, you want to make it as easy as possible for Tableau to render. This is especially true for device-specific views and automatic and range sizing dashboards. One way you can help is to simply use a fixed size dashboard layout. This will tell Tableau the exact size of the dashboard, regardless of what your screen size is. It won't waste time trying to determine what size screen you have and which applicable dashboard size should be used. You'll have to do some planning ahead of time and some acceptance testing with the business users, but fixed sizing simplifies the dashboard size and caching process significantly. Now that we've talked high level about dashboard properties, let's jump into our workbook and apply some fixed dashboard sizing. Alright, so we're back in our Tableau Desktop Performance Layout and Visual Optimization workbook. Let's go ahead and go to our dashboard. Now for our dashboard, we're going to be changing over to a fixed size dashboard to control rendering and dashboard caching. The key will be to leverage a size that fits most screens and will be scrollable for mobile views. It's always best to cater the dashboard size to the biggest group of your user base. So if your users are mostly on tablets, you should probably design for tablets. We'll also be removing the device designer aspects of the dashboard to further reduce the rendering and computational aspects of the dashboard. Now the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and delete our various layouts under device preview. The only thing that we're going to need is the default. The default is really what we're going to show and what we're going to customize. From there, we can uncheck device preview to get that off of our screen. And then we're going to go ahead and fix our dashboard size. You can see it's on automatic now, which is one of the least performant ways to optimize your dashboard size, because it will always be changing even if I resize the program on my very own computer. So let's go ahead and choose fixed size, and we're going to change our dashboard size to 1150 by 1000. Now this should fit most screens, especially widthwise, and it's going to be able to print in PDF fairly well. And we obviously haven't optimized our objects or our sheets or anything like that. We'll be doing that in the next few lessons. But for now, this looks pretty good. So let's go over to our Start Here sheet. We'll save our workbook. And up next, we'll be diving into dashboard objects and how to optimize them. Now let's talk through dashboard object optimization. You should try and limit, reduce, or consolidate dashboard objects like images or text boxes to improve performance. Let's look at our 3 rules in a little bit more depth. Generally, limit your use of dashboard objects to only those which are necessary. Dashboard objects are just like sheets. They take compute time to determine layout, placement, rendering, and more. If objects can't be removed without hurting end-user functionality, try reducing the size of objects in the dashboard. This is especially true for images. Try and limit the image file size and the image size on the actual dashboard. Finally, try to migrate objects into existing sheets or consolidate multiple objects into a single object to limit their overall compute time and impact. A quick pro tip: when using dashboard objects, the floating option will cache and render more efficiently than the tiled option. Now that we've talked high level about dashboard objects, let's jump into our workbook and organize and optimize some of our own. We're back in our Tableau Desktop Performance Layout and Visual Optimization workbook. Let's go ahead and go to our dashboard so we can optimize our objects. Now, going along with the methodology shown here, we're going to go and remove all of our floating objects other than our sheets. After doing this, we'll bring in a single object to consolidate the look and feel of our dashboard while limiting the overall impact of our object rendering. We'll also go ahead and float our sheets to lock in the rendering precision for Tableau. Now, first up, let's remove all of these icons. Those were associated with our KPIs and we've removed those. So we'll go to our Layout tab after selecting one. We'll choose the horizontal container that contains it, and we'll just click the X to delete the container. Let's double click into our title and rename it. We'll rename this as Which Streets Are Safe to Ride in New York. Click OK there. Then we'll go ahead and we're going to remove our color legends. They are informative to a point, but generally I think we can understand, and most users will, that this yellow color is not great and our purple color is better. So let's go ahead and just remove these color legends. They're not going to add that much value, and they're just going to add compute time. Now next we're going to float everything else in the dashboard. So let's go ahead and we'll just click on each of our sheets, click the caret, and choose floating. This is going to look a little bit messy for a moment, but we'll take care of that in just a bit. So we'll go to each sheet. We're going to float them all. Float that. Then we'll have a blank container here we can get rid of. And then our filter container, we can go ahead and float that as well. There we go. Let's just get rid of anything else back here on our dashboard. Yes, we've got our hidden filter here. That's okay. We're going to leave that one that's already floated and good. Okay, we'll just move our sheets out a little bit so we can see them and select them, because now we're going to go ahead and define the exact position of each of our sheets. So it'll be handy to be able to click them pretty easily. Let's start with our title box. So this one is going to be, and we're going to use our coordinates here on the Layout tab. This will be 10, 22, 756, 47. We'll hit Enter there. That's looking good. Then we'll have our year selector. You can see that's hidden up here now because it was white, which we could see before, but we can't see at the moment. That's okay. We'll need it to be white, so we're going to leave that. But we'll say 959 for our X, 5 for our Y, 124 for our width, and 39 for our height. Hit Enter there. Then we'll do our injuries by borough. This one is going to be 18 for our X, 85 for our Y, 400 for our width, and 312 for our height. All right, now we'll do our injuries by zip code sheet. That will be 418 for our X, 85 for our Y, 706 for our width, and 312 for our height. Then we'll do injuries by month. That will be 18 for our X, 405 for our Y, 400 for our width, and 335 for our height. Then we'll do injuries by street. This is going to be 418 for our X, 405 for our Y, 706 for our width, and 335 for our height. Okay, that's looking good. Now we're going to go back to our dashboard tab. We actually need to add one more sheet. That's going to be our hidden sheet down on the bottom. It's going to be called our detail table hidden view. We'll click floating and we'll drag this out down here. Okay, let's change the layout position here. Our X will be 24. Our Y will be 743. Our width will be 1094, and our height will be 195. There we go, and we'll just fit the width on this sheet. Now this one is not great performance-wise right now, so what we can do to help that just immediately is that we had a filter action applied here. So let's go ahead and select that and see if we can get that to action on this sheet, and then when we deselect it, you'll see that it disappears. Now that's really what we want. We want the performance to be good, so we'll have that hidden until you use all of your filters to get down to exactly what you need, and then you'll select your detail table. So it should be a lot smaller when it actually appears. So, you know, normally it would be a bad sheet, but in this case, since we're hiding it and then using it, it is a good sheet. All right, let's click Save on our workbook just so that we don't lose anything. And next up, we're going to add 2 new images to help with design overall. Now we're going to go down to our objects. We'll click on image and we're going to bring this in floating. We'll drop it and then we'll choose our file. Now inside your downloaded file folder, you'll have an images tab and you'll have a file called Bike Maven logo. You're going to want to select that and choose open. You'll hit OK. And then we're going to position this using the layout. So we'll place this at 915 for our X, 939 for our Y, 221 for our height, and 52 for our width. All right, that's looking good. Bottom right hand corner. Now we're going to add a full background to the dashboard to make this look a little bit more visually appealing. So we'll go back to image, we'll drag in our floating, We'll choose the image. It's going to be desktop performance background. We'll hit open. We'll hit OK. We'll go back to layout. That's going to be placed in the corner, so it's going to be 0, 0, 1150 by 1000. Hit enter there. And then we're, of course, going to send this sheet to the back. So we're going to go down, go to floating order, and send to back. All right, that's looking a little bit better right there, huh? Okay, that's looking pretty good. I know we have a little bit of a funky filter menu set up right now, but we're going to clean that up in the next lesson. For now, this is looking great. Let's go over to our Start Here tab. We'll save our workbook. And up next, we're going to be going through user experience tips. Optimizing user experience factors like dashboard layout and navigation can help improve perceived performance and overall usability. They may not increase performance significantly, but sometimes if they improve customer satisfaction, it can be enough to benefit the perception of the dashboard. Let's take a look at our top user experience tips. First, use common reading patterns. Layout influences the user's first impressions of the dashboard and also directly impacts the dashboard's usability. Try to stick to a drill pattern, starting with high-level dimensional views and going lower in grain as you go. The dashboard we've designed is often called a Z-pattern dashboard. Starting from the top left, going to the top right, then the bottom left, and the bottom right. The goal is to have a user drill to get insights and be able to go action on their information and make better business decisions. Next is hiding filter menus. Filter menus are necessary, but they should be well placed and revealed only when needed. Try leveraging containers with buttons to hide filter menus similar to how web pages do. You can also try to hide and swap sheets. You can leverage parameters, filters, and actions to show and hide sheets, improve performance, and enable drill paths. By hiding sheets, you can also improve performance by limiting rendering initially while giving users the ability to show deeper data and other views when desired. You should also aim to create user-friendly navigation. Try splitting dashboards into multiple tabs when you have too many data views. This will help group like sheets and themes together, while limiting sheets shown in one particular dashboard view, which will be better for performance. Finally, you should use animation purposefully and only if needed. Add animation only if it adds value to the user experience, and use a fast duration to improve perceived performance. If you use slow animations, it can look like your performance is slow, even if it's not the case. Now that we've talked high level about user experience tips, let's go into our workbook and apply a few of these ideas. All right, we're back in our Tableau Desktop Performance Layout and Visual Optimization workbook. We've already modified our layout to be more of a Z-pattern in nature, driving the correct interaction with the dashboard while not sacrificing the detailed views that our users want. What we're going to do is add to and enhance the user experience for our existing dashboard. First, we'll create a hidden filter menu, and second, we'll leverage our Sheet Hide option to reveal detailed views for the end user. This will help with performance and detail accessibility. Let's first take a look at hiding our filter menu. So let's go over, we'll go to our main dashboard, and you can see that our filters are contained right here inside this vertical container. Let's go ahead and select our container and change our background to white so it's a bit easier to read. Then we're going to change the placement, so let's go and change the X to 773. We'll change the Y to 68. The width will be 269, and the height will be 472. All right, now it looks like it's overlaying over our sheets, but we're going to actually add a Show Hide button so that we can only reveal this when we need to. So let's go ahead, hit the caret, click Add Show Hide button. That'll be this little X right here. We'll put that right here for now. And we're going to change the placement. So let's get this exactly where we want it. It'll be 760 for the X, 26 for the Y, 22 for the width, and 20 for the height. Then let's edit our button. So we'll click into our caret, choose Edit Button. Let's go ahead and change our image. Select Change, and then we'll go and choose our Filter Shown icon. That'll be this filled in one here. We'll click Open. Then we'll click on Item Hidden, we'll choose Choose, and then we'll do filter hidden icon. Click open there. And we'll type in show filters for the tooltip when it's hidden, and when it's shown, we'll say hide filters. And we'll click OK there. And now we can see that our little icon is right here. We can see that the tooltip comes up on it, which is good. Press Alt on our keyboard and click it, and you can see by clicking it up and down, we get it to show and hide. Okay, most of these look pretty decent. This one's not working completely. It looks like we've got a little bit of a wrap here around the sides, some padding. So let's go ahead and drop that to 0, and we'll get it to be a nice drop-down box there. And we'll go ahead and remove this quarter of date. We're not going to need that. And that's looking pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide this. We'll just do Alt and we'll click, and that's going to be contained right up there. We set up the inner workings of this in prior lessons, where we would have this sheet only reveal when we click on this sheet. You can see that if we go to our dashboard action menu. Inside our dashboard action, you can see that we have our detail action. If we click edit on that, you can see here that we have our on-street name, and it's pushing from our injuries by street down to our detail table hidden view. That's going to work correctly. So now let's just test this out quickly. We'll go down to one of our smaller bars. We'll click on Lexington Avenue, and you can see our detail view appears. We click it again and it goes away. So it does two things. First, it's going to improve performance because our detail view is hidden. And second, we can conserve some dashboard space and allow for some good interaction and some great performance when we initially open the dashboard. All right, next up, we're going to review our animations. So let's go ahead and we're going to go to Format, Animations to go modify these. So we'll click on Format, Animations, and we can see that animations are on, but our duration is very slow. So we're going to change that so that our performance looks faster. We'll go ahead and change that to fast. We'll click Reset just to reset everything, and we'll want this to be simultaneous. That should be just fine. So now let's see what happens when we select. We'll click on our sheet. That'll happen quickly. Let's just click on month. There we go. That looks like a nice fast animation, and that should give the appearance of good performance. I mean, we have good performance now anyway because of all the optimization we've done, but this is just going to enhance it for our end user. Now let's go ahead and fix some of our actions. If you see here, we click on some of these and they're not quite working. So we want to go clean those up. We did a lot of changes to our sheets, so we'll just make sure that those are really clean. So let's start with the top left. We'll go with our borrow action. Click edit on that. Now we don't want this coming from injuries by zip code. We actually want this coming from injuries by borough, since it's the borrow action. And it makes sense that it'll target everything else except for this year set. We don't need it to target this sheet. That's just for filtering. So we'll let it target everything else. We'll show all values. That's good. And we want to make sure that borrow is being pushed. So we'll just click borrow here, and we'll see that we're targeting borrow. Let's click OK there. That one should be cleaned up. Then we'll go to our next one, which is going to be our map, which will be our zip action. So we'll go ahead and edit that. This one is going to be injuries by zip, so we'll change that to injuries by zip. We'll want this to target pretty much everything except for injuries by borough. So let's deselect injuries by borough. We really want the Z pattern to flow. We don't want it to blow back. We'll uncheck set as well. Then we'll go in and we're going to push just zip. So we'll go down to zip, select that, make sure it's pushing to zip. Click OK there. And the final one is month, which looked like it was working fine, but let's just double check it. We'll hit edit there. We're pushing from month to the detail table in the street level view. We don't need it to hit on year set, so we'll uncheck that. And we're pushing month, which makes sense. Now we'll click OK, and let's check out our full drill path. Brooklyn, zip code, June, and Pennsylvania Ave. And that's looking great. That's working exactly how we want it to. It's blowing across in the Z pattern, and it's operating really quickly. We're going to go save our workbook on our Start Here tab. And then after you've done this, go ahead and close your workbook and open it back up. And you're going to run a few performance recordings by going to your Help menu, going to Settings and Performance, hitting Start Performance Recording, letting the dashboard load, stopping performance recording again in that same menu, and doing that a few different times, Remember to close and then open up your workbook again after you do those so that there's no caching, just to run a few performance tests. We're going to run it on our end as well, and in the next lesson we'll be reviewing the results. Our testing of the calculation section came in between 14 and 18 seconds. In our latest workbook performance testing, runtimes for this section were between 3 to 5 seconds, with a range of improvement of 9 to 15 seconds. This was a huge amount of improvement. Looking back, it's now obvious that the level of the sheets, marks, and objects drove the major performance drag and improvement in our dashboard. Some of the layout and visual improvements that we made include reduced marks on all sheets. We reduced dashboard objects, including containers and images. We used floating dashboard objects and sheets. We used fixed dashboard sizing, and we removed device designer layouts. When looking at our event type ranking, we've seen massive reduction on all accounts now, especially with rendering and query execution. Now that we've covered all the internal factors for which a developer can influence, we'll be covering external factors which may impact dashboard performance.